Good afternoon. It's Celeste of Astrology by Celeste. Yes, it is. I'm here with a cosmic conversation with my friend Christine Volden, who's an amazing psychic healer. Yes. Okay. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Hi, Dion. Hi. Oh, I might need to push it again. Oh, there. It worked. It worked the first time.
Hi.
Usually I have to push it a bunch of different times.
Nice. I know I wasn't hearing sound before, and now I am. So awesome.
Oh, good. Hi, Christine. Nice to see you
Hello.
again so
Yes.
soon.
I know we
Well,
were just talking.
yes, yes. Wonderful. Well, let's ground for a second. I've kind of
Oh,
been
good
running
idea.
around.
Yeah.
I just ate some lunch and okay. So welcome everyone. We're going to have a cosmic conversation. So Christine, introduce yourself to everyone
Yes.
and what you do.
I am I am Christine Volden. I'm the founder of Collective Knowing, which is a spiritual community for entrepreneurs. So if you are a spiritual person who's a business owner or you own a spiritual business, like I would love to meet you. And so I have a big background in business, but I'm also, a lot of people don't know, I'm also a psychic and I do readings for people. So we did a little reading before, which was fun. Yeah, so we're just talking about fun stuff today because I also love astrology and I am so not an expert in it. I'm a person who needs like the high level. So I love Celeste because she gives you like the info because there's no way I could, like, my brain just does not work with all of the details of
Hmm.
astrology. So I so appreciate people who do have that, like you.
Yeah, and I love that you have, like me, the mix of the business and the spiritual.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, so
which I think is very rare, right? It's very rare to find people, who are so also so grounded who can talk about this stuff. So
mhm.
yeah, so I really value you as a person in the community.
Yes, and tell people, do you want to share anything about your expertise, your business expertise, or?
Yeah, so I worked for like over 15 years, like managing sales teams for big tech companies like Yahoo and AOL, and went through a bunch of acquisitions. And about 8, 9 years ago, I started just doing business consulting. So I specifically consult business owners or founders in how to grow their business. And I just recently kind of made the change on Collective Knowing just to focus on spiritual and conscious business owners because I think they're so needed. And I my expertise is in sales specifically, so I just see that there's so many amazing people out there and I want to help them make money because that's like there's kind of this perception like, oh, if I'm doing this thing that is spiritual, or even like this idea if I'm doing something that I love that I can't make money, and that is total bullshit. So I just like my
Yeah.
mission is to dismantle that idea for people.
I love that. Yeah, and I have your chart here. So what we're going to do today is we're going to
Yeah.
talk about what you do with the psychic healing as well
Yeah.
as how it relates to your
Mm-hmm.
chart. And yeah, yeah, so let's do that. And tell
Yeah.
them how, well, first, how did you uncover you were a psychic?
Yeah.
Like, was it in your
Well,
childhood? Like, give us the.
yeah, this is great. And I'm a Pisces, first of all,
Mhm.
which I know you'll get to, but I feel like that's very relevant. So I was always psychic, like from the time I was younger, but I didn't really acknowledge it, and it kind of scared me. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I feel like at that time a lot of spiritual people were really ungrounded. And so I would
Mhm.
meet people and I'd be like, I don't like, those people are freaky to me. It didn't make me feel safe. And but then it was really interesting. The older I got, every like year or so, I would have this like very intense experience where I would either have a dream or I would have some like past life regression or something. And it would be so intense that it would honestly like freak me out
Mhm.
to the point that I was like, I don't want that. I was like, no, like, let me just like pretend that didn't happen. So that would just happen again and again for, God, I don't know, like 5, 6, 7 years. And then finally, I kind of slowly started kind of meeting people and being more open to it. And then
Mhm.
I have told you there's an amazing psychic school in San Francisco that I had many friends who went to. I was like, I'm not going to do that. And finally, I took one class and I was like, oh, I'm done. I got to go through the whole thing.
I love that. Yeah. So, to talking about what you just said,
Hmm.
and this is a great example of a yod.
Oh,
So, you have this chart
okay.
pattern in your chart, and what it looks like is a isosceles triangle. So, where there's
Mm-hmm.
a planet or point that at the apex, and then at the base, there are two other planets. And the planet at
Mm-hmm.
the apex makes what's called a quincunx to the two planets at the base. And it's almost like this unstable energy. It can be like a fly buzzing in your ear, or
Oh,
and,
interesting.
and then like the planets at the base are sextile each other, and sextiles bring
Mm-hmm.
opportunities, and it's called the finger of God, it's like you've been pointed at, and it's when they're triggered, like there's something
Hmm.
meaningful happens in people's lives. So your yacht is your sun.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
your sun in Pisces
Of
conjunct
course.
your Mercury in Pisces is at the apex. So
Ah.
this like getting this downloads, this intuitive
Hmm.
energy, connecting with the unconscious
Yeah.
in your fifth house of
Oh,
self-expression
funny.
and risk taking and things we do for joy, things like that are
Hmm.
the fifth house. And at the base on one side is Pluto in Libra in your 12th house. So, Pluto, the word you said was intensity, like, and scary. Like,
Yeah.
Pluto can take us on like a journey in the underworld that feels
Yeah.
kind of really frightening
Hmm.
at times.
Yeah.
But it brings up unconscious things and unburies things that we need to be aware of, or yeah, for whatever reason. On the other side is your South
Yeah.
Node in Leo. So this might have to do with the South Node, has
Hmm.
to do with, and it's in your 10th house, the most public house in your chart.
Mm.
The South Node may have to do with your past lives, and Christine is a past life expert. And so, yeah, that's probably what happens. That thing gets
Yeah.
set off, and
Yeah.
it.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's is a funny thing because I first started getting into it more and more comfortable because I would just see past lives all the time. Like I'd be talking to someone and I'd see something and I was part of this group. There's this amazing man named Ainsley McLeod and big shout out to him because I was part of his program. He's like a past life psychic. And I was like part of his program and I was like, oh, this is like I can really see these clearly. And so I started getting comfortable and working with his group, and that was like so helpful. And after that, I was like a lot more open to it because I was like, these past lives are pretty cool because he would walk us through different like things like past life gifts or past life fear of expression, and it was like, and I would he would like let us process it in the group, and he just validated a lot of the stuff that I saw, and it was for me like just that made a huge difference because I thought I was kind of crazy,
Mhm.
honestly.
Yeah. So Anna is saying that she noticed Leo vibes with you, and it must
Oh,
also be the
funny.
fifth house sun. So the South Node in Leo, that's what we're comfortable with,
Uh-huh.
and you just have the ability to just lead. Leo energy can be very
Mm-hmm.
leadership energy, as well as just gain attention. Like you walk into a room and
Right.
people just notice you and notice your
Yeah.
energy. And
That's true. Yeah. And it's funny in like energy language, I call that having seniority. And I always say seniority is like the opposite of being a victim, but I've always had such seniority over my space. And that's something they noticed even in my psychic school. They'd always be like, you have a lot of seniority because I was always so sure of myself. And people sometimes interpret that as like kind of like arrogance. And I was like, it's not that. Like, I just know, like, and that's part of my
it's
psychic.
confidence.
Yeah. It's,
That's
yeah.
that Leo energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's also, I think for me, it's like having that it's called claircognizance, and it's just clear knowing, right? I just know things, and I'm like, I'm not trying to be arrogant. I just like, I definitely know.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, yeah. It really shines through. And we can see
yeah.
planets in the fifth house.
Mm.
Um, we can see them in people's self. It's a house of self-expression, is how I
Oh, interesting.
mm-hmm.
I love this.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can say things very clearly. Like I want to also mention you have a T square, which is a very activating chart pattern where your
Hmm.
sun and your Mercury are in a square with your moon and Saturn, which probably helps you you have your moon in Gemini and Saturn in
Hmm.
Gemini. So you probably had to like put a little bit of a wall around yourself to protect yourself, that Sun square Saturn with so much.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, that's what I used to be. I was so shy as a kid. Like I couldn't even raise my hand in class. I was like
Hmm.
terrified of like, and it wasn't like looking back, it was like, I just couldn't deal with people's energy. I didn't know how to manage it.
Hmm.
And there'd be like all this, or like I could kind of not read people's thoughts, but I could definitely, like, I'm super empathic. So I would see like other parents and I'd be like, I don't want to, like, I couldn't even really deal with the adults, especially when
Hmm.
I was a kid. But now I know how to manage it.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
And on the other side, it's square your Neptune and Sagittarius. And it's right on the third cusp of the third house, which can be early education. So,
Mm.
yeah, like you're so Neptunian. Yeah, that I could totally see that. And with that Saturn opposite Neptune, you had to learn how to find structures to protect yourself or to ground that Neptunian
Yeah.
energy where you're
Oh,
just getting
very
all this
accurate.
energy or feelings or what have
Mm-hmm.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's taken like 50 years,
Mm-hmm.
but I figured it out. Yeah.
Mm.
So that's good.
Yeah, no, Pluto is king comes for sun. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see
Oh,
if
I
there are any other comments.
love all of these experts in astrology. I was like, I don't know any of this,
Yeah.
but I can
Yeah,
tell you
but
a
it's
bunch of psychic stuff.
mm. Oh, Deanna's saying that was me as a child too.
Mm.
Teacher wanted to have her parents put her in therapy. Now just realizing highly
Yeah.
sensitive. And I'm getting this like is getting your seniority in this realm. Is that something that you can learn or is it something you're
Oh,
just born with?
absolutely. Yeah. Well, I do think that I was born with it because I always did have this interesting sense of confidence, even though I was really shy. I was really confident, and but I do think anybody can
Mhm.
learn it, right? And it's
Mhm.
just sometimes it's just setting the intention because you can have seniority over even how you feel about a situation, right? Like I deal with a lot of people who, or recently, it seems like everyone's having these massive breakups, right? Like romantic relationships dissolving, and so I've been like kind of coaching a lot of my friends, and I say, like, just don't go into victimhood, right? Like, own the situation, right? You can decide. Of course, it's painful. It's like, it's really, really hard, but you can own how you can't own what is happening, but you can own your reaction to the situation and just saying, like, I'm in control. Because you have this feeling of not being in control when you're heartbroken, right? You're like just so sad and going through stuff. So,
Okay.
yeah. Anyone
Yeah,
can kind of,
Jasmina, a wonderful astrologer. People can follow her as well as follow Christine. You can poke the carrot at the top, and just follow
oh, yes,
Collective Knowing. But yes,
please.
you have Pluto in the 12th. Yasmina was asking if you had 12th house placements.
Ah,
I love that. And
yes.
it's so important. You talked about how a lot of people are having breakups right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the South Node, which is a cosmic broom that sweeps things out of our lives, is in the sign of Libra. And Libra rules relationships. And the
Ah.
North Node's in Aries, and opposite that. And Aries is about independence,
Mm-hmm.
going it alone, or, yeah, rather independence versus like enmeshment in relationships and
Right.
things like that. So a lot of people are experiencing relationship breakups, and this week is really especially volatile energy. Tomorrow's
Mm-hmm.
Venus
Mm-hmm.
meets Pluto, and that
Mm.
could be like we are just done. Pluto just
Yeah.
can like end things
Mm-hmm.
permanently. So
Yeah.
yeah, and some people are getting the news. Mercury square Uranus, like we're done kind of thing. And I love
Mm-hmm.
how you talk about having your own agency, doing
Yep.
some shadow work about what went on,
Mm-hmm.
like taking off the rose colored glasses, owning your part of it. And yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Staying at home
So
tomorrow. Yeah.
Anna's staying home tomorrow. Yes, yes. Chart is really triggered. Yes, deep psychic knowledge. That's like Pluto in the 12th house. Like you just
Mm-hmm.
have that. Yeah, Christine did a reading for me. It was so
Yes.
interesting.
So should we
Uh,
talk about that? Because I felt like there was so much that was like really fascinating in your chart. And I mean, is it okay if I share?
yes, please
Yeah.
do.
So the really cool thing about you, which I think, as someone like I know
Yeah.
you, right? So was everybody has, I say like a body and a being, right? So your physical body and then you have your being or your spirit. And a lot of times, especially for intuitive people, those two things are very disconnected, right? Like someone, and that's why you meet someone, like when I met people when I were young, spiritual people, right? That they were very much out of their body, and it made me feel unsafe. Now you, when I looked at yours, you were the most like in your body person I have seen in a long time. Like it's very, for me, it's almost unusual at this point to say someone who's intuitive is very much comfortable in their body. And so I was saying, hey, great job, because your mock-up in this lifetime was very much to do this, I saw, but you have such great integration into your physical body. And that I think is one of the reasons you're such a great astrologer, right? And you're also so able to be, like give people practical knowledge. Like when I tell them about you, I'm like, you have to meet Celeste. She's an astrologer, but she gives you really practical advice. And that's what I think differentiates you. And that totally made sense looking at your energy. I was like, oh, this is why, right? You're like in your body. Because that's very rare. Like it's normal. A lot of us get very scared to be in our body because we've had lifetimes where, we've been, hurt or murdered or whatever. Right. And especially people who have psychic or intuitive gifts, a lot of us, including me, have been hurt or killed or ganged up on because we had these gifts. So it's just like a beautiful thing to be able to see someone who's able to really integrate that. So that like definitely stood out.
Yeah, and I have my Sun conjunct Saturn and my Mercury as well in the sign of Taurus, which is an earth sign. So I feel like that really grounds me, even though I'm a Cancer rising. So I am an emotional and intuitive person.
But yeah, and you're able to mix those two, right? Because sometimes you meet people who are so in their body and then they don't feel their emotions, right? Or they don't validate their emotions, which is a tough one too. Because if you don't validate, like your emotions are how your soul speaks to you, right? I always say like that's your body speaking to you when you're feeling like anxiety or something, like your body is trying to tell you something. So you're able to really integrate and listen to those, which is like an essential part of the human experience, right?
And part of that is working with the moon. So I'm a Cancer rising and my moon's in Aries, in a square. So when I really started working with the moon is when I started doing more and more shadow work to start recognizing what the feelings were that were coming up within me, in order to be dealt with.
Yeah. And
it was
I was
life-changing.
And you're
go
ahead.
I was going to say, and I'm teaching my Moon Mastery program. I forgot to send you the link. I'll send you the link. Yeah, for Nadia Shah's Synchronicity University. You can take it for as low as $25, this 5-week program.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's going to be awesome. So you can sign up at the link in my bio or synchronicityuniversity.com. But it's
very cool. Yeah,
working with the moon and her cycles can be so helpful. And the moon's in Gemini. That's your moon sign.
Oh, it is. That's true. Oh, that's good. So does that mean good things are coming?
Yeah, it's good. It makes sense. We're talking right now while the moon's in Gemini. And do you have a class you're launching? Because
I do. Yes. So I am launching this class called the Intuitive Entrepreneur. So it's basically a business class. Because I always used to teach this sales and marketing class called Quiet Selling, which I love, and it's part of that. But I also now have brought in like these energetic principles because to me, right, like the business stuff is the business stuff, right? It's really important. But if you don't have the mindset and your energy set correctly, then it's almost like you're doing all the work for nothing. So it's not just like kind of keeping your vibration up. And a big thing I see for people in spiritual business is that they're typically empaths. And they're taking in so much energy. And it's not just taking in energy, but it's taking in beliefs, right? Like we're told, oh, you have to do this, or you have to do this, or to do this kind of business, you have to have all of this in line. And it's really more about your mindset and your belief of what you can do. Because, we were talking about this for you in the reading, but I was saying there's best practices, right? And we both come from this corporate background. So there's always corporate, best practices, but they are best practices in general. A lot of times for you and your business, and this applies to anyone, it's like you have to see, does this apply to me? And the cool thing about your reading was like I saw it was really important for you to honor what's important to you. Like you had this awesome past life that we saw, and which I'll just share because I thought it was so amazing, where you just mocked up this like incredible situation. It was this lifetime where most women would have gotten married and felt like they had to do that and not worked. And you were like, no, I want a successful business, and I want to have this love of my life who is not socially acceptable but is perfect for me. And like, I'm going to do my work and you're going to do your work, and like, I don't care if all these society ladies shun me. Like, I don't give a shit, like, because this is about me. And it was such an awesome, like, validating lifetime, because it was a time where a lot of people wouldn't have been brave enough to do that, right? Even now
Mhm.
people have times doing that, but this was like, I think it was like 1800s or so. And I mean, that was extraordinary to be able to do that in that lifetime and be like, fuck all of you people, I'm doing like exactly what I want. And you're this woman running this business that was like this incredible business that most of the time, like, women wouldn't have not even been allowed to do that. And not only did you do it, you did it really successful, and you found a way to make people respect you. So that
Yeah,
was
I
like,
love that
yeah,
because it feels like
yeah,
what you were telling me felt so much like what I'm trying to create now in this
mm-hmm,
lifetime, that it was like kind of a mirror and validating. Well, yeah, I mean, I can get that done. So it was so cool hearing about that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like I mean, that's the theme of like the intuitive entrepreneur program, right? Is that you can do exactly what you want and make a living. Because there's this whole idea, right? Like, oh, money is bad, or we can't make money doing what we love, or whatever it is. And that's just such bullshit. So
Uh-huh.
I want to empower, I really want to empower like spiritual entrepreneurs to like make the money that they deserve. And they deserve a fuckload of money, I think. I mean, that's my feeling
I
about it.
love how much you're cursing, which
I
you don't usually
I
do,
know.
but
I
today
get really fired up.
Mercury, the is square Uranus. And that's so funny that how that's showing up in our conversation is the F bombs are falling from the sky. I love it.
Yeah.
I
Well,
love it.
I'm very passionate about people making money, because I hate this idea that people think like, oh, I can't, or I can't make it with, this Reiki business or this yoga business. Like, of course you can.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Oh, Anna's asking if you have any Aries signatures. Yes.
I,
Christine has Venus and Aries on her descendant. So this descendant speaks about your client, and she has a Chiron Venus conjunction on her seventh house cusp. And so what she does is, that was so good, Anna. What she does was get her client's seventh house, Aries, fired up, Venus to make the money they deserve, Chiron to heal that wound about,
oh my
oh, I
God,
can't
I
make
love
money for
it.
a spiritual business.
Yes,
So,
empowering others, right? Like, that is my mission. And it's so funny. I never even realized how much that was my mission until I was interviewed on this podcast a couple of weeks ago. And they were like, did you always want to do this? And then I thought back and I was like, oh my God, yes. Like, I wanted to be like a motivational speaker when I was younger. And I didn't even know that was a job, but I saw someone like speaking on stage and I was like, that's a job? Like, I want to do that. That's amazing. And I have always been really fascinated by like making money, and it's not about like having the money, it's like making the money. Like, I get so excited about it, and so I'm like, yes, I want to make everybody make money.
well, you have a Cancer midheaven, and you're talking about making money. Cancer is a water sign that fertile. It's
Mm-hmm.
fertile. It makes things grow.
Mm-hmm.
And your moon, it rules your midheaven. So emotionally, and Gemini, using your words to help people make things grow and help make money grow. And you have your Mars and Taurus ruling your house of money. So, like the
Oh, I didn't know
physical,
that. I didn't know that
yeah.
was a house of money. That's awesome. That is a
Mm-hmm.
very aggressive sign for money, I think. I like it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. You yes, you could be a motivational speaker. Have you finished your book yet, or are you still writing it?
I'm like, well, I wanted, I had to change it because I was so excited about it, because it is, and that's kind of what the intuitive entrepreneur program is based on, right? It's like, I have the sales stuff down, but I wanted to change the mindset part, because I kind of realized there's all these like really important like principles that I wanted to teach people. So I'm kind of rewriting that part now.
Mm.
But it's like, that to me is a big part of it, right? I did on Valentine's Day, I did a free meditation for my groups. And the heart chakra, a lot of people think, oh, it's just about love, it's about loving yourself and others, but really what it's really about is permission, right? It's giving yourself
Mm.
permission. So we did a meditation on that. And then I have a whole module where I'm teaching people, because our heart chakra is literally what connects our physical body to the divine, right? So we have our upper chakras and our lower chakras, and our heart chakras in the middle. And that is really like where you manifest everything, right? You give yourself
Mm.
permission to manifest and visualize what you want. So I thought it was so perfect for Valentine's Day, right? To be able to work on that. But yeah, so all of these things like permission, understanding boundaries, and working with your own energy, right?
Mhm.
Like being able to be neutral with people, because that's a tough one, not to have judgment against or about other situations or other people, because there's so much happening in the world, right? And there's two sides to everything. And it's just, appreciating that, hey, that's great. Like I wouldn't have the light without the dark.
Mhm.
And so I think that's a really big thing. So yeah, it's teaching those principles, which now I'm putting into the book. So
I
hopefully
I I
that will be
love
ready.
that. Yeah, opening up, giving yourself permission, removing the blocks. And one of the things I loved about your reading with me is at the end you did a healing
Hmm.
to move the energy, like some of my stuck
Yep.
energy and my daddy wound or and all that
Hmm.
off. And I really
Oh,
felt it. I felt this like
did you?
light.
Oh,
Yeah, I
good.
felt this lightening up
Yeah.
of something that was holding me down, getting me closer to my, yeah. I forget
Yeah. A
how you
lot of
said it,
people. Yeah.
but like
Well,
I
yeah.
have this
You.
abundance
Yeah.
mindset above
Yeah.
all of this scarcity stuff I learned from my, yeah,
Yeah.
from my
Yeah, and
family.
that's so
Mhm.
important. But I do, and I always say it's really you moving the energy. I always am just facilitating it, because when I do a reading, I'm just reading whatever the person shows me. You
Mhm.
happen to have shown me very clear pictures, because you have clearly done a lot of work on yourself and you're very mature, right? And we were talking about, sometimes I read people, it's not as clear, because maybe they're not as clear, and that's okay. But then I definitely see the energy, and then I move it and I clear it. And I always say we want to keep the memory and the lesson, but we want to remove the emotional charge, because that's where the energy gets stuck, right? When
Mhm.
we have this emotional charge or this wounding, and it comes from, I would say it comes from like three places. Number one, it comes from past lives sometimes, not always. It comes from current lives, things that have happened. And then it comes from programming. So we get programmed from parents, school, religion, like media is a huge one, especially for women, right?
Mhm.
Just the collective idea of what, you're supposed to be as a woman, that impacts us, and we keep that energy in our space. I mean, I read someone the other day who she felt like she was responsible for the whole collective of women, and I've seen that in myself too, where she was like holding space for all of this, right? And it's like,
Mhm.
that's really hard. Like, we're not responsible for that as individuals, and sometimes we just are subconsciously doing that. But yeah, I
Mhm.
always try to help people move the energy, and that, so good job, because that was you moving the energy. So
Okay. Oh,
if
cool.
you were
Yes, I
feeling it,
moved it.
yeah, if
I moved it.
you were feeling it, you were doing
Mhm.
it, because I just like help you do it, and facilitate the exercise. So yeah,
Yeah.
great job. Yeah,
Yeah. Thank
it's always
you.
a great reading. If I see clear pictures and you feel good, then I'm like, that was awesome, because it's also healing for me every time I do um, a reading, because there's always, and I'll just say this because I'm sure a lot of these people are astrologers. Every time you do a reading or a consultation or coaching, and even in consulting, my business consulting business, I see this every single time, without doubt, 0% chance that this does not happen. You will see something in that reading or that healing that applies to you too, right?
Mhm.
So every time I do a reading, I have to do a little process at the end where I'm like, where did I match with that? What was brought up for me? And for me, I just see it. It just comes out really clearly. It's almost like a highlight. But
Mhm.
I remember, even when I used to do business consulting, I used to be like, oh, I would just hear myself talking, and I'd be like, oh, that's good advice for me. I should probably do that.
Yes,
Um,
that is
yeah.
because your charts are tied into everyone who comes to you as a
Yep.
client. So there's something
Never
there that, yeah,
a
you're
coincidence.
able to,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
so Yogi's asking a great question. How did I
Mhm.
decide to leave corporate? Well, I always wanted to leave, but I didn't feel like I could. So the universe decided for me, and I got like fired 2 times in a row in like 9 months because I kept saying like, I want to leave. I don't feel like I can. So apparently, and that's a great example of like giving up your seniority, right? Like I wasn't taking seniority over the situation. And this was like, 15 years ago or something. So yeah, I didn't. And then I got fired once and I was devastated and I was like, oh, but I need the money. So I went back and then I got fired again. I was like, okay, got it. Like, I'm hearing
The
you. Like,
universe
I'm
was
gonna,
telling you. That's your South Node, I think, in your 10th house of career. I bet it was that yod was set off both
yep.
of those times that you got
Yeah.
fired. Did it have to do with something that you said or your self-expression or no?
Yeah, actually it was. I like called someone out and I won't go into the details, but he was not happy. And like, a day later I was like, I mean, the cool thing was I was like literally like flying and it wasn't like a private jet, but it was like a charter jet. And I was like, well, this isn't a bad way to be fired. And on the plane ride, I like registered my new domain for my company because I was like, I want to remember this moment that like this is when I'm launching my company. And so I was like in that and I was like, great. Like it's not the worst thing in the world to be in like a chartered, plane on my way home, like starting my new business.
That is
So, and I was so
your
ready.
yod. So you said
Yeah.
something, your sun and Mercury in your 5th house of self-expression. And like I bet you what you said hit that person so hard in
Oh,
the
it did.
gut with that
Yeah.
Pluto, the
Hmm.
10 comes Pluto, like
Yeah.
you unburied, unearthed this like potent truth.
Yeah.
And
No,
comes
no
the
one.
South
Yeah.
Node in your 10th house, you're
Yep.
fired.
Yeah.
That was
No one wanted to tell this person the truth, but I was like, come on, like this is bullshit at this point. Like someone's got to say something. And
mhm.
I think I kind of knew I didn't want to work there anymore anyway.
Yeah. So when
Um,
you have things like that, you should write down the dates, and
I
then you can
know that's a good idea. And then I can ask you.
yeah, and then you can ask me, was my yacht set off?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like now knowing that I can think of many, many times that that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
Where I've just been like, you know what? I'm going to just do this. And sometimes I do things. I'm like, I don't even know why I do them.
Mm-hmm.
And now that makes sense because, like from an energy standpoint, I'm always thinking like, am I like channeling something or am I, like connecting to some other space? But it's also probably that
I think
because I do know sometimes,
yeah,
yeah,
I
like I have
think
channeled like other beings and stuff. Yeah.
it's channeling things, and you've got Venus and Aries. There's this independence, like, and you're a Libra rising. I should have said that for people. So you're a Pisces sun,
Hmm.
and you're a Gemini moon and a Libra rising. So
Hmm.
Venus rules your whole chart, and that Venus and Aries, a conjunct Chiron, like you are here to help people heal. Um, yeah, and this
Oh, I
is
was
a
going to ask you that. Yeah, I was going to ask about the healing part. So that's so interesting because I do
that's
do healing like with my hands. I don't even do it intentionally, but sometimes I like channel things and then I do have like I can feel it.
mm,
And I can see it like clairvoyantly. And it's weirdly only in my right hand. I don't know, but yeah, I was
mm.
going to be like, is that in the chart? Because I'm like, I don't know what. But well, before I was when I didn't know all of my abilities, I was like, what am I like? What's happening? But now I understand kind of more how it works. Not totally, but
Yeah, well, you have Chiron angular, and when planets are angular, they're at the seats. Well, Chiron's an asteroid, some whatever it
hmm.
is. They're at the seats of power in your chart, and you have it on your descendant, which is the other. It's your clients,
Mm,
it's your, it's your love partners, it's your business
hmm.
partners. There's this aspect like wounds as well, like Venus conjunct Chiron on your descendant. You've got relationship stuff
Hmm.
and karma or whatever you want to call it that you've worked through in this lifetime. Yeah, but there's also something about this is your purpose or your what your soul is rising up to, and you
Right.
do it in a Libra way where you can help people heal in a way that's you have a gift with the being able to present things
Mm, hmm.
that in like that win-win solution energy or seeing both sides of the issues.
Hmm.
Things aren't black and white, they are, everybody has their point of view. You've said Libra things on
Yes,
this
that's
kind of
exactly what I teach. I always tell people like if you're selling, it has to be a win-win. And someone just said like something about justice, and I was like,
mhm.
yeah, I get like so fired up where I'm like, why are all the spiritual people like old white people? Like what the fuck? Like where are the people of color? Like what's going on here? Right? And that's why, and I'm like, that's such a like it's literally like our indigenous, ancestors like are who taught us this. Like, why are they not like coming up? right? Why is it all like some old white guy who's like channeling something that, and we're all listening to? Like, that's
Yeah.
nuts. Like,
And don't you have, aren't you part Mexican? Is that
I
right?
am. I'm Latina.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
I mean,
Mhm.
yes, my parents were not like super, I won't say I was disadvantaged or in any way, but you know, I always respect my grandmother, right? She had a lot to deal with, and even in her own family. I mean, there's a whole history of the Latino culture that, you know, I could go into, but I won't.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah. Well, Libra is the justice card in the tarot
mm-hmm.
deck. So that's your
Yeah,
card.
yes. But I
Hmm.
do feel like it's so important just to have equality for all types of people because there's no, I mean, that's the great thing about intuition. Everybody has it. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter how much money you are, or even how old you are, or what your background is. Like everyone has access to it. And that's why it's so, like, that's why it has the power to really like change people and change the world, right? Because if you can tune into that, that is like where the real
Hmm.
magic is. And especially for any business owner, right? I don't care what you're doing and what kind of business you are doing. If you can tune into that, that's really what's powerful. That's what makes like a good, you know, like any, not everybody wants to have their own business, but you know, everyone can be tuned into their intuition for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. And Jasmina is asking, do you do family ancestry healing?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's kind of like always comes up, you know, even for you, I saw there's like a lot of your dad's old energy on stuff.
Hmm.
You know, I remember saying like there was some, and apologies. I sometimes after readings I totally forget what I said
Me
because I'm
too.
in like I kind of intend to forget it because I was like I don't need to remember all this. But I know there was something that I was like it wasn't your energy and I think it was around money or something. But I was like that's your you know your dad's energy. So yeah, a lot of times I'll see like a whole lineage. I'll see you know some people I'll see this is your whole female line. It's your mom's mom. Like everyone is has brought this forward, right? Because and that's why I do actually honor my Latina heritage because my grandmother, right, like she was really shamed for who she was, and I'm like, you know, I don't. I think it's important to honor her and what she went through because it did affect me, right? Because it affected
Hmm.
my mom, who then it affected me, right? Um,
Hmm.
but anyway, so yes, I do because I think that's so important, and that does come in. And my belief is that if we heal it in ourselves, not only are we healing it for, you know, some people say, oh, when you heal it, you heal your whole ancestral line. It is way more than that. When you heal something, right, in yourself, like when I do the healing for you, you healed that across all of your lifetimes and you healed that in the collective in some way. So it is
Hmm.
so powerful to do that for people because when you heal something like, you know, there's this collective energy. And like I always see this for women, especially, right? There's this collective energy that, you know, we have this wound because our power has been taken away from us or we've been told that we can't do things. And it's pretty large, right? When I heal that for one person, it doesn't heal all of it, but it does some healing. So I think that is so important to do those kinds of healings for people and like ancestral lines because it doesn't just heal them, it heals everybody, which is so amazing. And that's another reason why we need more spiritual entrepreneurs because I'm like, if we're all doing this work, right? How
Hmm.
freaking amazing. Now I'm trying to curse less, but I'm
Ah,
like, how fucking
you can
amazing is that if we're
keep
all able to
cursing. I
do
mean,
that?
it's in line with the energy. Let the F bombs fall.
But it's so important because if we can all be doing this kind of work, right, then we're all healing the collective and it just creates this collective shift, which I think
Hmm.
is exactly what we need right now on this planet.
I love that. Yeah, and Kim's astro healing has Moon Chiron conjunct in Pisces. So yes, that's a big healing energy. Yeah, yeah. I think Anna's saying that cursing is her love
Oh,
language.
awesome. That's
Yes.
how you know I'm excited is if I'm cursing, then I'm like very excited about something.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you talked about, yeah, because like I have felt that scarcity mindset. Like I've never wanted for things. Like I've always been financially secure, but
Mm-hmm.
always fearful about it with the the sun Saturn in
Yeah,
Taurus.
so and that was so interesting because I saw
That's my
your higher
dad.
self and yeah, your energy actually has such an abundant mindset. And I saw like sitting on top of that, was all your dad's energy. It was your dad's energy, but also a collective energy, right? Around that.
Mm.
But yeah, but I saw like at your core, you had so much abundance, which was awesome. And it was just like all this stuff. But I will say, as someone who, teaches sales and selling specifically, I have seen that there's this collective energy around kind of fear and like making money, right? And it's so funny. I started seeing it like about a year ago, as it's almost like this layer of energy that keeps all of us down. And it's funny, the intro to the book, I actually write this. I'm like, who does this serve?
The
And think about it. Who does it
government,
serve?
the
Yes.
government,
Fuck
the
yes. Yes.
businesses.
Patriarchy, all of these corporations, that's who benefits from us all thinking, I'm not worthy of making money, or making money makes me greedy, right? That is literally this collective energy they have put on us to keep themselves in power. And the more like, and I was asking you about this, I was saying, I feel like energetically, there's this power of the collective rising. And I remember I asked you about that last week, because I have been feeling this again and again. And I was like, there's something going on where it's like the power of all of us is going to be stronger than the powers that are in control right now. Right. And you were
That's
saying that is
Pluto and
something.
Aquarius.
Yeah. And I was like, I am feeling that like big time. And that is so related to the money thing, right? All of us thinking, because it's not just you, almost everybody feels like, man, I feel like a little guilty making money, or I feel like I don't deserve it, or I feel like I can only do it if I work my ass off, or like it's conditional, right? Like I can only make it if this happens, but you can make it like any way you want, right? It can be easy if you want it to be. And it's just that we have this, like, it's such a heavy collective energy around this but it's ready to move. And that's why I'm like, yes, this is a perfect time to be like bringing this to entrepreneurs, because I feel like the spiritual like entrepreneurs are the ones who are going to lift it up, right? And if we can show we can all make money, then like how fucking awesome will that be when you're like, I don't need that, like that yogi person was saying, like, I don't want to leave my corporate job, but guess what, you're going to be in a space where they're going to be like begging you to stay. And you're going to be like, you know what? I make so much money in my own business that I don't need to work here anymore. Because that's the shift I see that's going to happen. That it's like now all of these corporations are going to be really fucked, to be quite honest, because no one's going to want to work there. And you already see that with this.
It's
like,
already happening. Yeah. Can I give you a reflection back about my dad?
Yes.
So my dad is a Capricorn, and he was a superstar athlete, went to Boston University, and then got his CPA, and had this, as a black man, had this high-powered corporate job. So there was all this pressure on him.
Yeah.
And that makes total sense in terms of what you're saying about.
Yes. Yeah. Because that was his energy, right? Because he had to deal with so much bullshit, I'm sure. Right. And he had to play by the rules. Like, imagine at that time, right? Being a black man in a corporate, like, environment, like the stuff he must have had to deal with, and like, just let it pass. Right. Like, and then he's bringing, and you saw that, right? And even if he didn't say anything, that was his energy. Right. And as a kid, we often reflect our parents' energy. And a thing that I see often, and I've seen this many times in myself, is when we see a parent who has wounding, we match that wounding, because it makes us feel like we love them more. It makes us think that we're going to be more accepted, especially when we have a caregiver who might have not been the most nurturing, right? We're like, maybe they'll love me more if I go into their energy space. And so that's a lot to, like, especially when you have like really truly wounded parents, it's really hard to clear that energy. I mean, you have to really clear that out. And it's not just about money, right? It's about, and that's why it goes back to your fourth heart chakra. It's about clear, having that permission to like, hey, I deserve love no matter what, or I deserve money no matter what, right? Or I deserve things just because I'm me, and there's no condition on like, receiving.
Yeah.
And that's like, I worked on that a lot when I was in like my psychic school. That was like the big thing I was working on. I was like, I can be worthy without anything. I don't have to, because I kept thinking, because my mom was such a hard worker. She had such a great work ethic. And I really picked that up. And I started when I was like 15, I was working like 20 hours a week. Because I love making money. I really do. So, and I don't have a problem with work. So I was always working, making money. And but I realized I had this programming of like, oh, I have to do something to be worthy. And
Mm.
so that was really, and like, as humans, just want to say to everybody, you are all worthy without doing anything. Like, you don't have
Hmm.
to earn it. You don't have to do it. You don't even have to be a nice person, to be honest. I mean, it's nice if you are, but like, we are all worthy of it no matter what. And that's, we've gotten this programming that we have to be worthy in some way.
I love that. Yeah, that's such a like breaking these old mindsets.
Mm-hmm.
Pluto like burns things down to the studs in order to be rebuilt. In Aquarius,
Yep.
a fixed mindset, like making these
Yep.
changes. And I feel like
Ah,
the internet ushered in this period where
absolutely.
you don't need to work in an office. You can like use it for free advertising and this and that and the other
Totally.
to
Yes.
create your own whatever it is you want to do,
That's
whether
so
it's
true. Yeah. When I was a kid, I used to read like the New York Times. My dad was like a super businessy guy. So he kind of like basically raised me to be an entrepreneur. And they used to have this article in the New York Times. It was like the corner office or something, and it'd be like a highlight on entrepreneurs. And at that time, there was no internet, right? Because I'm very old. But like, I remember like the general thought was you have to mortgage your house and have like several $100,000 liquid in cash to even start a business. That was just like, and even I took all these business classes. They were like, you need 2 years operating expenses to start a business. Now, fast forward to like internet, you can literally start a business now with like a negative bank account, right? You can get a free, you can get a free Instagram account. You can get free social media. Like, it is amazing what has happened in our lifetime to
mm-hmm.
empower entrepreneurs. I mean, it is like completely different. And I remember I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. My dad was like, well, like so few people make it. And he was like, kind of trying to set my expectations. But I remember I kept telling him, I was like, but Dad, I'm the one who does. Like, don't you know that? And I was so confident in it. And I was like, I don't even know. Now I'm like, where did that come from? But I think it
Well,
was
that's
in my chart.
Neptune. I feel like you have Neptune on the cusp of your third house of mindset and
Yeah.
your thought processes,
Mm-hmm.
and your sun is it a square to it,
Yeah.
as well as your moon. It's
Yeah.
like Neptune is the ultimate manifester. You have to
Mm-hmm.
think it, believe it in order to make it a reality.
Oh,
So
yeah. Practical people think I'm insane. They are like, you are so overly, I mean, when they're nice, they call me overly optimistic, but when they're like not nice, they're telling me I'm delusional. So,
that's
and I'm like,
Neptune.
I don't care. Yes, if you
You
want to
have
call it that, I
Neptune
am
in
delusional.
Sagittarius, a Jupiter side. Yeah, where's your Jupiter? Let me look. Oh, Jupiter in Capricorn. You are so interesting. You have so many planets in what's called detriment, which is places they don't like to be. Venus does
Oh,
not like
really?
to be in Aries because it's supposed to
Yeah,
bring things together,
yeah,
Venus, but Aries is a Mars ruled sign. But you have your Venus and Mars in what we call mutual reception. You have
yeah.
your Mars in Taurus. Mars does not like to be in Taurus
Really?
because it's slow and it's plodding and it's
Ah,
practical and it doesn't likes to be in Aries.
yeah,
So your Venus wants to be in Taurus where it's at home, and your Mars wants to be in Aries where it's at home. And so like they could kind of flippy
yeah,
floppy, and you've been able to make your own path, make your own
yeah.
way, Mars, to make money and bring resources to you, Venus.
Yeah,
Yeah. And you
yeah. Thank you, Yogi. They are jealous. But
have
that's so true, Celeste, because and like anyone who knows me or who knew me from growing up, it's like I've always had this rebel personality where I'm like, I don't care, I'm just doing it my way, and it's like going to be different, and it's unusual. So that is interesting that my chart shows that, because that, like, if you met me, you'd be like, of course she did that, of course she picked the sign that doesn't go with that, like, because that's how I do things.
yeah, it's very much, yeah. Planets in Detra, pioneer
Oh, thank
energy. Yeah, you
you.
pioneered
See?
your own
Yeah,
way. You just like doing your own
yeah,
thing. I mean, it's just
yeah.
really cool how you've translated from that corporate life to the quiet
Yep.
selling, helping people use their
Mhm.
intuitive tools to be better
Mhm.
salespeople
Yeah.
without being aggressive and obnoxious and all
Mhm.
of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that Venus and Mars and mutual reception as well. And now
Yeah.
you're like doing the psychic stuff where you, yeah.
Yeah. And
And
yeah, and that's, that for me, that's a really big deal. Like even doing this with you on my Instagram is a big deal because I don't usually, or I didn't usually share that with people because I felt like, oh, I still, what if my corporate clients see this? And it's like just been in the last like year where I'm like, I do not give a fuck if someone
This is
like
Pluto in
sees this.
Aquarius.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And even more recently, I was like, and it's so funny because I've always taught people like there's this thing I always say, you always probably have this gift that maybe you've hidden, and that's actually your secret, like your secret superpower, right? And I don't listen to my own advice sometimes. I think a lot of people don't. And then it kind of dawned on me. I was like, well, that's mine. Like, why am I not bringing that into my business? And not only that, like making that the forefront of it, because that is like my special gift. And then it's like I kind of needed. I always feel like you meet the right people at the right time. And I had a call with someone actually fairly recently. And it's like sometimes I just get downloads of information and I'm like trying to have this conversation with this person. And at the same time, I'm getting these downloads like, oh, all of the pieces are coming together. Like,
You have
I'm
Uranus.
supposed to, yeah, like my business is coaching spiritual entrepreneurs, and it's going to grow way beyond that. But that's like my true like desire focus area. Cause I was like coaching all these other entrepreneurs who were like all these incubators. Cause I live in San Francisco. Right. And there's a lot of tech people. So I was always doing that. And then I was like, but why am I not I'm doing that for the wrong people? So now I know who I want to be doing that for.
I love that. Yeah, you have Uranus in your first house, so you are a rebel.
Yeah.
Like literally, that's the planet
Yes.
of the revolutionaries, the
Yeah.
brilliant, like innovators, people who can see the future and
Yep.
trend setting or understand
Yes.
trends. That's another thing when you have a Uranus in your first house can help you do. We're both
Yeah.
Uranian. I have Uranus at my IC. That's
Oh,
in the
I love
fourth
it.
house of family. Yeah, so I was an undercover rebel, like even to myself. Like I've
Oh my
always
God.
been.
But isn't that interesting? Because the other past life we saw, you were exactly that. You were an undercover
Yep,
rebel, right? Do you
yep.
want me to share what that was?
Sure. Yeah, tell
Yeah.
everybody what you
So
saw.
this was like a fascinating past life and like really validating. But you were basically, right, like a young man in a home that, like had a bunch of slaves with a very unpleasant father who was like very like not kind to people. And you ran this underground, like subversive movement to really like try to get everyone like out of there basically and try
Liberate
to
them.
like end yes, exactly. It was like you were an abolitionist, right? And you had this father who was like really leading this and you were doing it undercover and you were like absolute, like that was your soul's mission in that lifetime because you were like this is unacceptable. And you had so much passion about it, right? And then you end up having a love interest and then it became even more serious, but it was like that was your, like I could just see the passion that you had in that lifetime for that because you were like this is my mission and I will not stop. And there was no fear about it either, which was, I didn't mention that to you, but you were fearless.
Wow.
um and you could have really, obviously, I mean, you lived in the deep South, right? And had an extremely wealthy family that you came from, that they would have no doubt if they had known what you were doing, right, of just like ending
Yeah.
that. So there was like a pretty amazing amount of bravery and fearlessness that were involved in that lifetime, not to mention like the amazing things that you were doing and the love that you were showing for everybody.
Well, I have a moon in Aries, and yeah, it took like because I let a lot of that Taurus and that Saturn energy kind of like feeling the fear. But one of my old bosses told me that I was fearless. One of the things that the word that came to them
Yes.
about me. So I didn't even recognize it in myself. But yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
Right.
Yeah, I can poke, but yeah, I can poke. I can like talk
Yeah.
about things that, yeah,
Yeah, but also
like a lot of.
natural leader, right? Like I saw
Mhm.
this like natural leadership ability because you were like
Mm.
leading this whole
Mhm.
mission, right? And also to be a leader that is like different than everybody else, right? And is unexpected. Like even like you have to be a really true on point leader to do
Mhm.
that. So that was like really awesome. Like, and I love seeing like really validating past lives because I definitely don't see that with everybody. Sometimes
Yeah.
I see
Mhm.
ones where people really are struggling, and not that that wasn't a struggle, because there were a lot of things that came up. But I do see, it's nice when you see like validating past
Mm-hmm.
lives that show you your strengths. I think that's so important. Um, because like you, like I love, you have some phrase that I love that you say about astrology. Like you say you like kind of undercover. What is it? Oh, you find like someone's soul blueprint, right?
Yes, your
Isn't that like,
cosmic blueprint,
yes,
your
that's
soul
it. Yeah.
purpose,
I love that.
cosmic blueprint.
I love that from a marketing perspective, but I also just love that, those words. And I see that in past lives too. I see people sometimes have this, it's like, I call it a mock-up. It's like you have a mock-up for your soul, and you're usually, the past lives are all different, right? But you see like these running themes, like this mock-up, right? And sometimes you're learning it by doing the wrong thing, and that's okay. And sometimes you're doing the right thing, but there's always like this running theme, which is really amazing. And I also see it shows up in their bodies. Like for me, it's so interesting. It's always about self-expression.
Mm.
Whenever I get sick, I don't have stomach aches. I always get a sore throat every single time.
Interesting.
Like my throat chakra is like it's like this running thing. And I've been murdered and killed and like so many things for speaking my truth. Right. But in this
Mm.
lifetime, like I also know that that's really, really healing and important for me. So I see that in people too. Sometimes it's, something like, your third chakra is about personal power. And sometimes for people who give up their seniority in many lifetimes, their goal or their soul blueprint is really to like own their seniority and their sovereignty. And they'll always get like stomach aches or have like intestinal issues or something like that. So I'm always like so fascinated about how our physical bodies like mirror our energetic bodies and our experience, not just as in this lifetime, but in like all of the lifetimes. It's just like, it's so fascinating.
That is so cool. And it speaks to me like with my astrology, like some healers or astrologers won't talk about certain things.
Mm,
Like this war going on in Israel is so incendiary, and I've talked about the astrology of it. And like last week I kind of fucked up and said something that came across kind of unfeeling and somewhat,
mm,
yeah. It was
mm-hmm.
just like detached, that Aquarius detachment, just like
Yeah.
stating the facts of things that really triggered some people. I took it down. But
Yeah.
anyway, I feel like I need to speak about all the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that takes some
Yeah.
bravery, because for some people,
Absolutely.
it's like, they'll cancel you if they feel like you don't agree with them exactly on their point of
Right, but
view,
that's
how
their,
they
yeah, that's
say
their
it.
perspective. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But there, I mean, there's even like I've looked at the energy of that too, because there's energy in land, right? Like there's so much energy in like the Middle East around like conflict, and
Mm-hmm.
I may be wrong, but I think that actually might be like what they say the earth has chakras. I think it's like that might be like the throat chakra, actually. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a coincidence that there's always been conflict there. I would say that. And there's a lot of energy around that. And so, yeah, when that comes up, I mean, I always say everything's a reflection, right? But that's a reflection of what our current collective is feeling, right? And it's very
Mm-hmm.
much mirrored there. So you see that happen all the time in different places, right? Even like when there's like volcanoes that are erupting, and it's like everything is a mirror. Our body is a mirror, like the
Mm-hmm.
collective is a mirror. What's happening in in whatever media is a mirror. It's always showing us stuff. So I would say, yeah, people get triggered. It's true. But if you look at what's triggering you, it's like that is reflecting something in you that needs to be healed. So
Mm-hmm.
for sure, when we see these conflicts, especially when there's children involved and stuff, it is
It's so hard.
very, yeah, it's very deep wounding. But I would say, like, for people, like, look at where that's reflecting in you, because some people are way more affected by a certain thing than another. And there's
Mm-hmm.
a reason, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's because of your own personal experience, that comes up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like we're on this precipice where all of this conflict, the North Nodes and Aries coming to our conscious attention for a reason. And we're having these amazing things. Like there's a lot of change coming in over the next couple of years,
Yep.
where we have decisions to make about whether we're going to move towards like breaking down some structures and rebuilding them in a
Mm-hmm.
positive way to bring more more equality and things to each other,
Hmm.
but it's going to be really hard because people have a natural tendency to move into hierarchies.
Yep.
And so when you bring
Yep.
things,
And they're comfortable with it, right? It's like that's what they've always known, right? It's very
Mhm.
uncomfortable. And that's why the power of the collective is so awesome, because if you're like, well, if we all do this, right, that then we can make a change. Because it's certainly not going to be the people who are in power now who are going to be like, sure, let's change it all. Let me give up all my power, right? They don't want it. They don't want anybody to change. And that's also why they don't want the collective to have power, because then it will change everything. I mean, that's how organized religion is the way it is now, right? It didn't start
Mhm.
that way, and I won't go on a whole rampage because I'll start like really cursing if we get into religion. But I mean, like, look at, like, the history. I mean, it was used for political purposes. Like, that was not the idea of, if you look at like the core tenets of any religion, it's never about controlling people or that you have to do things. If you look at the core teachings, it's about love, and it's about generosity, and it's about the collective. But
Mhm.
the people who decided to rewrite the Bible and every other text, right, have decided like, oh no, it's that all of a sudden you have to be worthy of God's love, or whoever your supreme being is. And that's just like more bullshit, right? like
Mhm. Mhm.
like there's a lot of that.
I love that. Yeah. Oh my God, I could talk to you all
I know.
afternoon, but we're
It's
at the top of the hour. So just tell everybody again who you are and how they can find
yes,
you.
yes,
And
thank you.
you can
Yes,
follow
you can
Christine by pushing
follow
the
me.
arrow as well.
Yeah. So Collective Knowing is my company, and really our goal is to empower spiritual entrepreneurs. So you can just follow me here. Our website is just getting updated right now, so there'll be a lot of new info soon. But this is the best place to follow me. And then if anybody actually wants to get like a reading with me, you can actually just message me or DM me on Collective Knowing. I think it might be on my link tree on there, so you can do that, because I love I every time I do a reading I get healing as well, so I love to do them for people. And I do like tarot readings, I do intuitive energy readings, but I always do a healing at the end. But yes, follow Collective Knowing, because I would love to support you and help you make fucking money that you all deserve. Because
I
if
love
you're
that, Chris.
following Celeste, then like, I don't care, you're in some way spiritual. Even if you're an accountant, and you're a spiritual person, you should still be making money.
Hmm.
Oh, thank you, Ali.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Christine. This is so fun.
Yeah.
We'll have to do it
Yes,
again.
I would love that.
Yeah. Okay. Take good care. And I will make you a collaborator. So if you want to put this on your
Oh,
blog with
beautiful.
him.
Yes, I would love to. All right. Thank you. Have a
Okay.
great weekend, guys.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.